welcome back to another video with Environment with M. So this is the part 2 of my book recommendations. So actually I was gonna film this video a lot later, but I have to return this book to the library tomorrow. So I'm just starting with the books I've read so far. So yes, let's talk about this book. This one is called Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul Hawken. So if you remember, if you watched my last book video, I said that they were all good, but they were kind of a bit sad. Not a lot of solutions going on there. And this one is full of solutions. There's nothing about the facts or basics of climate change science. It's 100% solutions, which is quite refreshing sometimes. And if I've been feeling very pessimistic about the future after reading the other 3 books, at least this one gave me some hope. So the structure of the book, it's just divided into different sections. So it's like an energy section, food, women and girls, buildings and cities, land use, transport, materials. So here it's just going through different options and things we can do to reduce the carbon dioxide to 2050. And then they are ranking every solution after the potential of removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere or decreasing it compared to how it could be. And so I'm going to tell you the top 5 solutions with the highest potential of reducing greenhouse gases. So the first one is tropical forests, which means restoring, making sure that we're not burning off more tropical forests or changing it to agricultural land. We need to save the tropical forests. Number 4, a plant-rich diet. I've been saying it before, and it's quite a common knowledge that meat is not the best food option for the environment and not for the climate, and therefore in the rich world we need to reduce our meat consumption. So it's saying that the potential is based on 50% of the population, so the richest part of the population. If we reduce our meat consumption and also stop overeating, then there's a really big potential. And it's saying plant rich, so they're not saying that everyone will become vegan, and that's probably reasonable because I don't think it's likely that that would happen. And number 3, it's also connected to food, and it's reduced food waste. We are throwing away so much food, and that's a big problem. And if we could reduce the food waste by half to 2050, that would have a massive impact on the climate. Number 2, wind power. There's a lot of potential in increasing wind power, and that will move our energy sector away from the fossil fuels that are emitting so much carbon dioxide to renewable energy, and wind seems to be the best one, and they say that we could increase the global mix of energy to 21% of wind to 2050. So that's great. And the first one, this came as a surprise to me because I didn't even know about this. So I feel a bit like I've missed out on something. Refrigeration, which is in fridges and air conditioners, you need some kind of substance to make the air cold and to keep your food cold. A few decades ago, the main substance here was chlorofluorocarbons or hydrochlorofluorocarbons, and they are really bad for the ozone layer, and that's why they were phased out. And by the way, the ozone layer is an example of where the world actually came together and solved a big global environmental problem. But these substances were replaced with another one. Sounds similar, it's not the same, but it was hydrofluorocarbons. And it's a lot better for the ozone layer, but it's a really bad greenhouse gas. It's actually 1,000 to 9,000 times stronger than carbon dioxide. So if we can phase it out, find another replacement, but mainly making sure that we take care of like the end product of a fridge, because that's usually in the end of life is usually where the most emissions occur. So if we could reuse them, there's like a lot of potential in that. So there you go, the Drawdown's top 5 solutions. So it's nice, sometimes you just need some hope, don't you? The second book that I've read is this one. It's called Big World, Small Planet, Abundance Within Planetary Boundaries. And it's by Johan Rockström and Mattias Klum, 2 Swedish people. And I've read, like, I think that was their first book, called The Human Quest. And it's about the planetary boundaries. There's a lot of scientists that have together found like some boundaries for 9 environmental problems that they think that we can't cross these borders, because then like the planet will change and it's not safe for us. We can't have a functioning like society, civilization on this planet if we are crossing these boundaries. So it's a really good approach, I feel, to include all environmental problems and to understand that everything is connected. And we're talking a lot about climate change, and that is a very important issue, and it's like we need to do something about it now, but that's not the only one, and we can't forget about them either. So yeah, I feel like this is probably like the easiest book to read compared to like the other 4 I've been talking about, like in the from my first video as well. This one gives quite a broad, like general, this is what's going on, talking a little bit about different issues. If you have seen the Human Quest book, that's more about like a coffee table book. It's a lot bigger, thicker, so this one is a lot shorter. And even though this one is like easier to read because of it's just shorter, and I mean it got some really nice like photos everywhere, which makes it nicer to read, and the Human Quest got that as well. But in that one, they're really going into every planetary boundary into depth. So if you want to learn more about all of them, that's a great book. But if you don't have as much time, this one is good too, and I feel like everyone could read this one, so that's good. So I guess I will see you in a couple of weeks when I've read my last book, and I will give you a recommendation about that too. So see you later. Hi again. I think it's like 2 weeks later or something, and I've read my final book. So my last book is called The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History by Elizabeth Kolbert. And because this is about like biodiversity loss, I just thought it was very suitable to be in the forest, because I'm at my granddad's summer house in Värmland, not too far away from the Norwegian border. Having a great time, a lot of time to read. So I wanted to share my thoughts on this book. I really enjoyed reading this book actually. It was one of my favorite books out of the 6 that I've read this summer, and it covered quite a lot. Every chapter in the book was kind of themed around some kind of like one species. So we got some kind of frog in the first chapter, and they got some like photos, as you can see, like bats here. I don't think it's that easy to see, but anyway, and they kind of covered like the whole history of like when we realized that there are species that are not alive anymore, that are extinct, and how the first person realized it and what we have realized since then. And the book is mentioning like the earlier mass extinctions and talking about why they occurred. And for example, they say that climate change has been involved earlier in an earlier mass extinction. And yeah, there are some good theories for different mass extinctions. and I thought that was very interesting. It's also talking about the present, and I mean, some of the species here are extinct from way back and like more connected to the history parts, and some of them are in the present where we don't have that many individuals left, or a species that is struggling right now. And yeah, it definitely talks about how humanity has such a big impact on different species. We could think that it's because of how we live now, and that's why this mass extinction is occurring. But actually, humans have never lived in like fully harmony with nature. It's just that it's a lot more extreme now, obviously. But yeah, it was a good read, and it's also like giving a few examples of when humans have really cared about protecting some species. So it's not all bad. I feel like it's hopeful as well. I really thought this was an interesting read. So with that, I'm finishing this inspirational learn more about the environment outside my channel chapter of podcasts and books, and I will come back to you with something new next week. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye!